Thank you for attending this training today. This session is on the new legislation under which companies have a duty to proactively take steps to prevent sexual harassment from occurring in the workplace. First of all, I want to say that the company does not tolerate any form of harassment or bullying under any circumstance. This training is part of the company's efforts to ensure that all employees understand what we are doing to prevent sexual harassment from occurring at work. The objective of this session today is to enable all team members to understand what sexual harassment means, the steps we are taking as a company to prevent it, who you should report it to, and your responsibilities as employees and colleagues. During the training, I am going to pause and ask questions, and if you're in a group, you may wish to discuss the question together and learn from each other. The definition of sexual harassment is on the screen. Harassment is any form of unwanted conduct related to an area covered by discrimination legislation, which has the purpose or effect of violating an individual's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive working environment for them. Harassment can be based on sex. It can also be based on age, disability, race, religion, or some other protected characteristics. Sexual harassment itself is unwanted conduct of a sexual nature, or when someone is treated less favourably because they have rejected or refused to submit to sexual harassment. You can see some examples of sexual harassment on the screen. Some others are verbal, unwelcome comments about a person's appearance, or inappropriate questions about someone's personal life during an interview, for example. Non-verbal includes sending inappropriate emails or text messages or images. Physical may be any sort of unwanted touching or brushing against somebody unnecessarily. If you're in a group, pause the video now and have a think about some examples of sexual harassment that you may be aware of. There are two main types of sexual harassment, as I just mentioned. First of all, when someone is subjected to unwanted conduct of a sexual nature. And secondly, when somebody's refusal to submit to sexual advances or sexual conduct means that they are treated differently from others. The company has taken a number of steps to proactively prevent harassment at work. First of all, we have a very clear anti-harassment policy that can be found in your handbook or in your policies area. Secondly, we are undertaking training such as this. Thirdly, we are making sure that we have confidential ways to report concerns. And lastly, regular assessments of workplace culture that might include employee surveys, exit interviews, one-to-ones or working groups. If you're in a group, have a discussion about what other steps do you think the company should be taking. If you're on your own, perhaps just reflect on that question. One of the things which all employers are encouraged to do is undertake a risk assessment, which we have done with the company. There are some common high-risk factors which I wanted to touch on today. Not all of these will be relevant to every workplace, but these are some of the things which we've thought about in the risk assessment. First of all, where there might be power imbalances. So that means very senior staff working with much more junior staff, for example, where the junior member of the team may feel unable to report inappropriate conduct. That's a risk area. Secondly, where there are social events, particularly where alcohol is involved, and perhaps client-related events. This includes social events which are work-related but which aren't necessarily organised or paid for by the company. So, for example, if a number of colleagues chose to go for a drink after work, for example. And lastly, where people are working off-site or in isolated areas where it's a lot more challenging to supervise them, or where people are working with third parties, where perhaps they're not going into the normal workplace and where less controls can be put in place. So in your group, discuss what other areas in your workplace do you think might pose a risk for harassment, and then we can include those in the risk assessment. One area that the company must protect employees from is harassment by third parties. That includes customers, visitors, contractors or suppliers. The steps we're taking include communicating the policy on bullying harassment, formally notifying third parties of the company's policy on harassment, for example, via their terms and conditions, or asking them to sign to say they've read a policy when they arrive at the workplace, for example, or including notices that we expect people to behave appropriately and respectfully towards our team. In the event that a third party commits harassment, the action to be taken may include warning them, banning them from the premises, or reporting any criminal acts to the police. You are strongly encouraged to report any third party harassment you are a victim of, or indeed that you witness. We'll come on to talk about how you can do that in just a moment. We all need to be responsible for creating a positive and respectful working environment. So here are some of the things that you can do as an individual. Firstly, respect your colleagues and treat them professionally and understand that people have different boundaries. Intervene and step in if you see somebody conducting themselves inappropriately or in breach of the policy that we've talked about today. Make sure that you help to promote awareness of what constitutes harassment. If you've got a new starter, for example, you might want to let them know about this training or about the policy that the company has. And lastly, support a colleague who has a concern. It's a really challenging thing to report harassment, and we want to make sure that people feel able to do so. In the event that you do report sexual harassment or you witness sexual harassment, there are a number of steps that I suggest that you take. First of all, it's really important to document what you've experienced or what you've seen. That means recording things like dates, times, who was involved, who witnessed, exactly what happened. Keeping a record is really, really helpful for these type of events. Use a confidential reporting channel to report what you've seen or what you've experienced. That might mean talking to your manager, coming to us, for example, or raising a grievance via the company's grievance procedure. I can assure you that all reports will be handled confidentially and as discreetly as possible. In your group, pause the video for a moment and talk about, do you feel comfortable reporting harassment? What might make you feel more comfortable? And what concerns might you have? In the event that the company does receive a report of harassment, there are a number of steps that we have to take. First of all, we must carry out an investigation. That means looking into the matters that have been raised and understanding, what happened, when, who was involved. We will make sure that the company carries out a fair process. Often we are asked to support with this type of thing. And if any claims are substantiated, clearly disciplinary action will follow as set out in the company's disciplinary procedure. People who report harassment or other similar reporting are protected, and there are a number of ways that we do that. First of all, we will ensure that your report remains confidential wherever possible. You're also protected from any form of retaliation. You should not be treated unfairly or differently from others because you've made a report of harassment in the workplace. That's known as victimization, and that is completely inappropriate and not allowed. There are a number of support systems in the event that you do report harassment, such as speaking with us or speaking with a nominated person within the business. You may be able to access counselling or other support that's outlined in your policy or in your handbook, so have a look at that. In your group, pause the video for a moment and think about what would make you feel confident in reporting concerns. Are there any other things that you think the company should put in place? So just to finish off, I just wanted to cover some final thoughts. First of all, preventing harassment, as you can hear, is everybody's responsibility, although the company has a duty to proactively take steps to support and make sure that harassment does not occur in the workplace. The company is committed to maintaining a safe and respectful workplace and will take seriously any reports of sexual harassment, including that by third parties. And we've set out today the ways that you can report sexual harassment confidentially and knowing that you are protected if you do so. Thank you so much for attending the training today. I hope it's been helpful and that you've had some discussion in your groups. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise them with your manager or with the nominated person in your business, or indeed, feel free to drop us a line. Thank you very much.